rock star. You can find me in VIP, all eyes on me. Yeah, where the girls are, this is how your night should be.
All right. Welcome everybody to Gogotalx, brought to you by GOGOTIX. I'm your host, as always, Malachi Johns, and today we are joined by my good friend Diallo Sumbry of the Adinkra group, joining us all the way from Ghana in Africa. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, man. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, man. I'm good. It's late on our side, but I'm good.
All right, cool. Well, I'll try not to, and I appreciate that. I will try not to keep you up too late. But thanks again for joining us. So why don't you, if we could, just start with sort of your background, where you grew up, how you ended up getting into, music, entertainment, international relations, and everything that you are currently involved in as we sit here today.
Well, I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey. So born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey. I moved to DC in 1989. My mom moved us out of Trenton. And if anybody's familiar with Trenton, Trenton is a pretty rough town right now. But when I grew up, it was like getting there. It was getting to be as rough as it is.
Okay.
So we moved to DC. I moved uptown.
So you ruined Trenton, basically, is what you're saying. You turned it into a rough place. It's all your fault.
Definitely not. I was mischievous in Trenton. You know what I'm saying? I was like 14 when I moved, so we was young. We was still breaking windows, riding on the back of UPS trucks, stealing out the corner store. Doing regular. That was regular
shit.
Yeah, regular kid devious stuff. Like we didn't do nothing too crazy. So yeah, moved to DC in '89. Moved uptown. I remember moving to DC. To 13th and Monroe. So if anybody knows DC and you know 13th and Monroe Northwest in 1989, then you know that I moved like right into the hood. So I was kind of like, Mom, you moved us here because Trenton rough? Like you decided to move us to the murder capital to keep us out of trouble.
Right.
So yeah. So I grew up in DC uptown mainly, and when I moved to DC, I could not stand go-go music. I literally, I could not stand go-go music because I didn't understand it. Right.
What were you listening to before you came to DC? What was it? You listened to?
Jersey, you listening to hip hop, you listening to house, you listening to club, and like I said, I was 14, so I'm not one of them cats who was like, at 7 years old was deep into music and this. I was, 14. I was just like, okay, girls, school, girls. Like,
right.
That's what life is all about. So, but I knew I had family in DC, people in DC that I knew. So I remember getting into what grade was I in? I had to be 10th or 11th. So 90, 91 or something. And we would just always get into these arguments. And I would be like, yo, go stupid, yo. Like, and they'd be like, what do you mean go stupid? I'd be like, we don't know what you all are talking about on the tape. The songs don't start. The songs don't end. Y'all just screaming. Y'all just shouting. This is what people who don't understand go-go might think. Yeah. So then my boy is like, he's like, you saying this because you haven't been to the go-go. So you need to come to the go-go. And I was like, man, I ain't going to the go-go. You go through that whole thing. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
My first go-go, WST.
Which is now 930 Club. Yeah.
Which is now 930 Club. Backyard versus Northeast Groovers used to happen every Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
And oh my God, man. Oh my God. I fell in love. I was just like, oh shit.
So what made you fall in love?
Yo, it was a few things. One, it was the girls. You know, like I said, boy, growing up, it was just like the way the girls was freaking on you. It was like shit. It was just like this is what happens in a go go. You know what I'm saying? I ain't had to do nothing. Um, it was just like and then it was the energy. It was like the energy. So you can feel the energy. So when you're there in the go go, and then you can feel the energy go up, you can feel the energy go down, you can feel it go left. You could, like, for anybody who's been in a go go for a long time, I used to knew when it was going to be a fight. You could feel the fight coming in.
Yeah, 100%. You know what's about to happen.
You feel it. You feel the thickness in the air. So after my first go go, I was like, oh my goodness. So then I was just like, okay, well, let me come back again to see if I like it the same amount. I loved it more. So it ain't take long for me. So after that, I was just hooked. I was hooked on go-go. So then, 14, 15. So then when you start hearing all 35th, 14, Clifton,
Yeah.
640.
Like, oh, that's around the corner. Yeah.
So then you want to know, well, where are all these places?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So then you kind of start moving around the district. You start moving around the city. And then, at the time when I first started going to the go-go, I was hanging with some cats from 9th Street, right not far from WST, Lee Droit Park, 1512. So, you might be one of 30. You know what I'm saying? You might be, so when we used to go to the go-go, it might be 30 of us. Like, you're outside. You really don't go into the second half. And I'm talking to the old heads who understand where you stand out front or around the corner smoking a backwood or having a drink. Everybody gathering, this neighborhood coming together. So people just chilling. And then, you go in hands on shoulders. You know what I'm saying? In the line, you go in hands on shoulders. You march your way to the front. You secure your spot. And then you party with back. That's the go-go. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, it's nostalgic when I think about it because it was like every weekend. I be thinking now, I wonder how I afforded to go to the go-go. I ain't had no job. I was to go 4 times a week. Like I don't even know how I used to pay for it.
Right. Well, so I want to interrupt for just 1 second just to let everybody know, because I see there's a bunch of people joining on Instagram. Everybody that's on Instagram, make sure you head over to youtube.com/GOGOTIX. You can see both sides of the conversation. I see a couple of people trying to join in on Instagram. You can ask questions in the chat on YouTube. So just make sure you head over to youtube.com/GOGOTIX. What's up, Gino? My man plays keys for EU on here. But I just wanted to say it's kind of funny that we had sort of the same experience. So I grew up in Annapolis, right? Which, is, for anybody that doesn't know, is about 20, 25 minutes outside of DC, which really is not that far, but it's like, another world or something when when you live in DC. But Annapolis is right between DC and Baltimore. And there's a lot of, it's similar to your story where in New Jersey, you were listening to hip hop and club and house and stuff. That's what they listen to in Baltimore. And then in DC, obviously, it's go-go. And so in Annapolis, there's sort of 2 factions where it's like you either like a B-more dude or a go-go dude. And I definitely was, well, prior to that, my first go-go experience was actually playing with a band. And it was the same thing as you was. I saw a girl taking her clothes off, and I was like, sign me up for this shit. I will be here every week until I die. And so, it was the same thing for me. It's funny, and I'm slightly embarrassed about that story, but thank you for breaking the ice on that, so I don't feel like I'm the only dirty old heathen man that, got into this music because of because of seeing the girls dance. But that's really
what better reason to get into anything as a man than a woman?
Well, at 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, that's what it is. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt your story. I apologize.
No, it's all good. So prior to moving to DC, again, I grew up in New Jersey, but so I grew up like my mom and my pops. They co-founded an African-centered school in Trenton, New Jersey. Okay. So I went to African-centered schools from like pre-K through 5th grade. And then from 6th to 8th grade, I went to like an all-white school in the suburbs, which was a whole different experience because, when you go to an African-centered school, pro-black, nationalist, pan-Africanist, you're not spending time around non-black people.
Well, explain that for people. So give a little insight into what that looks like. Like for people that are from America that not even white or black or whatever that have not had that experience. What's the difference?
So coming out of the 60s, you had a group of people who Black Power, people who had a choice. So for those of us who are history buffs, we know that what was it, 1967? I think is that the Economic Empowerment Act, the Voting Rights Act. When all of that happened, there was kind of a split. So you had like the Black Panthers, you had Republic of New Africa, you had all of these political social organizations that went one way, and then you had the black people that kind of went towards corporate, right? So I could get a corporate job and this, that, and the third. But then you had those black people who was power to the people, revolution, down with the man. And my parents,
Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King. Right.
Exactly. So my parents went on kind of the Malcolm X side, or really they probably went more towards Stokely Carmichael, A-Trap Brown, Black Panther, so they got into institution building and African culture.
Yep.
So, my parents, all of their kids got African names.
Okay.
Born with African names and, grew up wearing African clothes. So when I say an independent African-centered school, meaning it was a 1-floor school with 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 or 6 classrooms, but the school went from pre-K through 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have 3 people, so you might be in the 4th grade, but you might be in a class with 6th graders. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And then it's just based on the level of the work. And African-centered because all of the curriculum comes from, I would say, uses Africa as the center. So when you learn math, you learn that math started in Africa. When you learn science, you learn that science started in Africa, pyramids, this. You didn't necessarily grow up thinking that Africa was a country. You grew up understanding a whole bunch of geography. We used to have geography drills every morning. We had to memorize every African country, its city. We actually had to memorize all of the continents, all of the states in the U.S., its capital cities, major rivers, lakes. So it was real kind of intense education. And a part of that was African drumming and dancing. So I grew up on the stage. So I was a performer my whole life, whether we was doing plays but my mom got her kids into African drumming and dancing. So my family, to this day, we still got our studio in Mount Rainier where we teach West African dancing and drumming from ages 2 to adult. Mm-hmm. So I had the rhythm in me, you know what I'm saying? So being a drummer, you feel drums.
Right.
You're automatically going to feel drums. So I think that's really a part of also what made go-go mean something to me, is that when I went to the go-go, I could hear familiar things, but like I said, the energy was super familiar. Mm-hmm. Energy was familiar. And I think the year before we moved to DC in 89, the year before we moved to DC, my mom took all her kids to Africa. So my first time in Africa was in 1988. So having that experience and that worldview coming, and then we moved to DC because we continued going to independent African-centered schools. Mm-hmm. So in DC, anybody from DC, it looked like a mosque on the corner of Park Road and Sherman Avenue. It was a yellow building that looked like a Muslim mosque, but people ain't know that was a school called Nation House Positive Action Center, and that's the school that I went to. So mind you, our school is in the middle of the hood, bro. We around the corner from 640, we around the corner from 11th and Monroe. So it was actually even a thing with our families coming up, us going to the go-go, because at that time, 89, 90, 91, I mean, shit wasn't simple in DC. It wasn't, it ain't simple now, but it was a different time. Yeah. It was a different time. So if your kids were sneaking out to go to the go-go, always in the go-go, or hanging with one of these gangs, know what I was saying, one of these street crews, you was worried.
Yeah.
We was working. So it wasn't like they were necessarily happy that we were going to the go-go, but man, I tell any parent right now, if your child want to go to the go-go, I'll tell you to go with them as opposed to
Right.
trying to stop them. They're going to sneak out. Once you get bit by the go-go bug, they're going to sneak out. And now you're just going to have a bad relationship with your kid because they're going to choose go-go over parental rules.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So again, here I am. I'm going to the go-go. Started with WST, hanging with Uptown guys. So then it was just a thing. It wasn't even like, it's not even a part of, it's not even a question. It's just like I guess in other cities, you got to figure out what you're going to do on the weekend. You know what I'm saying? It's like what we doing this weekend. In DC, is no question about what you're doing. You're going to the go-go. It's like the question is, after you got a little older, it's like, well, are we going to venture out to the south side to go to the east side, or are we going to stay uptown? You know what I'm saying? That's the only question. So yeah, man. So I fell in love with Backyard. I fell in love with WST. I fell in love with the Ibex, the Tip Top, the Black Hole.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick, because you said your first experience was Backyard versus Northeast, and obviously you're an Uptown dude. Was that the reason why you gravitated towards Backyard versus Northeast, or were there other reasons?
I think musically, Northeast was. I feel like Northeast might have been a little more polished, to be honest. Now, thinking with my musical ear, when I think back, I felt like Northeast was a little more polished. Mm-hmm. But then, back in those days, it was like, Northeast, they got some Maryland Bammers on people in DC, like, so back in the day, it was like, if you didn't live in DC proper, you felt like people ain't deserved the same respect if you was in the ninth.
It still goes on now. It still goes on now.
If you was like in PG County, so you just kind of, and you go to the go-go band who's shouting out your crew.
Right.
So, so G yelling Uptown, 1512, Leroy Park, 9th Street, then that's where we at. Everything
around your way, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everything around your way. So but when I think back to the music, I think that Northeast had the girls though. Northeast had the girls. It was the girls went crazy on Northeast. Northeast played a lot more roller times even back then, I feel like, and their music was just different. The music I felt like was a little more polished, a little more cleaner, and I felt like Backyard was that gritty underground sound. And you can't like G's voice, Los, Wincy, Buggy and Sauce. So it's like if you a fan of these guys, then you got memories with them. So, I remember it was certain songs that they hit. So number one, anytime Backyard hit coming through, it's like you hope you run into G during the week to be like, G. You know what I'm saying? You hope you run into G during the week and be like, G, y'all got a hit coming through on Friday. You know what I'm saying? Or the carry out or something like that. Yeah. And then, so they hit, Backyard used to hit Onyx. They used to hit all of the Scarface, all of the music we listened to on the hip hop side. Backyard would hit that. So, and then it was just kind of that gritty, it was that gritty underground kind of sound. The Unabomber, like it was just so okay, you go to the go-go, you listen. Now you start buying go-go tapes, right? Mm-hmm. So I still have all of my tapes, which when I come back home to DC, I'm actually about to digitize all my tapes. I still have 2 crates full of cassette. I would not let nobody throw them away forever. I used to have all my tapes in my room organized by band and by date. And then if I came home, I could tell if one of my sisters was in my room listening to my tapes, because one of them
out of order.
The date would be out of order, and I would come home and check my tapes. Be like, who got my Ibex 11797?
Right.
So for me, so now mind you, at the same time that I'm in a go-go, finished school, I graduated, I went to UDC. My whole time I'm still performing. We're still performers. So from a performance perspective, I grew up on stage.
Right.
So I know what it's like to be a performer and to play drums. You know, we messed around with go-go on African drum before, and we could hear and we know the similarity. And again, growing up with that worldview and that perspective, you know, essentially that most music came from African music, or that Black people created most music, and it stems from some type of ancestral memory. Like it came over here with us on PA tapes from Nico on F Street. Wow. F Street, you talking about by the Hex and the Red Fox. We used to buy all our white t-shirts, our Timberlands, and our bomber jackets from the Red Fox on F Street. I seen somebody.
Yeah. Nico was on here a couple months ago talking about those days. Yep.
Yeah. So for me, it was kind of like somewhat of a natural progression. So I think I'm the member of my family, because all my family's into performance. But I'm the one that's somehow geared towards the business side of it, or the production side, or the producing side. Like, I think that happened because we used to get our own gigs. So once we came of age, our drum and performance group get our own gigs. And I think I remember us getting our early gigs, and they was like, somebody got to talk for us and talk to the people. They was like, Diallo, you run your mouth, you talk to them.
Right.
So, you know, that's how I started kind of becoming the guy to kind of represent us.
So you were appointed. You didn't choose to be that person.
Yeah, no. I didn't choose, but in a way I chose because I was good at it, and I was and I didn't feel like I was as good as a musician as everybody else. I wasn't that much into like when I say I know drummers, it's like you got drummers and then you got drummers.
Right.
You got guys who playing good, but then you got the guys who eat, sleep, breathe. They got drum talk. They got a whole nother way of living that the average person, they gonna get on our nerves, because all they want to do is drum and talk about drum. Right. And then the most of us, we kind of like, okay, we did the drumming thing, let's move on. And they like, no, there is no moving on. Right. And I wasn't one of them, and I like making money. So I was like, I'm trying to figure this thing out. So yeah, man. So that's kind of how I got into that. And then coming out of UDC, again, still going to the go-go, still being uptown. I started producing my own shows. Just doing clubs on U Street, working with my man, rest in peace, Spider the DJ. He and I did a lot together. And then, and at some point back in the day, so I'm gonna tell you how I knew I had to take go-go to Africa. Okay. I think I was in WST. This is how long ago the vision came. And something happened, and I literally felt like I had like an outer body experience. Like I'm in the go-go and the energy is so fucking high. Like it's so high, and we were so high.
You probably didn't really have an out-of-body experience.
Like we were so, like the energy was high. Maybe the AC wasn't working. It was hot. And I just remember being so damn high that I felt like
the floor was probably sweating, right? That's how I used to be.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I felt like I came out of my body, and then I was like up in the balcony looking down at us. And I was like, this is warrior music. I was like, everybody in here is in a trance right now, but I don't know if everybody knows they're in a trance, because, bro, it was so crazy that night that it was almost like everybody was programmed, and just the way everybody was moving, and it was just, and nobody was deviating. It was like everybody was on remote.
It was like it was choreographed, but people weren't together. It was just
The energy was stupid. So then I was like, yo, this is warrior music. This is like everybody. Then, my mind started going to, I wonder what would happen if we could use this music for good. Like, what if we could play this music and get people to do something different than this, you know. So I'm thinking about this. So then I just remember every time I get a chance when I seen G, I would just be like, yo, I'm gonna take Backyard to Africa. If you run into him, he'll tell you. He gonna be like Diallo was telling. He been telling me for 15 years he gonna take Backyard to Africa. It was just like I'm gonna take Backyard to Africa. Like it was just like a thing. Like yo, Backyard, we gonna go to Africa. Like Gogo has to go to Africa to feel this thing. So, you know, so fast forward some years and years and years. Most people don't know that I was also involved in Gogo with the Beat Your Feet Kings. Like the number of stories that I heard about the Beat Your Feet Kings and how they got on America's Best Dance Crew and how they got together is still crazy to me because every member of the Beat Your Feet Kings know that I put the group together.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. Crazy Legs was on here before.
Yeah. Jay still called me. He be calling me like, yo, bro, I need to talk.
Yeah.
So and I just found the video. And, you know, like I'm one of those guys. I'm be like, say less. I got all my receipts, so just say less. I got all the. I keep all the footage. So,
so my question to you is: I assume. I mean, obviously, you have your family came up in the drum and dance scene. Mm-hmm. You have a studio based around that. You fall in love with Gogo. How do those two things come together in your thoughts about the Beat Your Feet Kings? Like, how does that manifest?
So I'll tell you, the way that the Beat Your Feet Kings came about was not through the Beat Your Feet Kings.
Okay.
So my mom had been watching this movie called Rise.
Yep. I think I've seen it.
And she was like, you have to see this movie. So she kept pressing me. You have to see this movie. You have to see this movie. So I'm like, all right, what is this crumping thing? So then I watched the movie Rise. I was blown away. Mm-hmm. Same night that I finished watching the movie, I went on the internet. I started researching them. And at the time, then I hit up the Crump Kings. I hit up two people. I hit up the Crump Kings. I found their manager, and I hit up Tommy the Clown. So if you remember Rise, those was like
that movie. Yep, and I remember Tommy the Clown. Yep.
I hit both of them, and I basically was like, I got to bring y'all to DC.
Right.
So what ended up happening was we wound up going out to Cali for a drum gig. Mm-hmm. We had a drum gig out Cali. So when we was going out to Cali, I hit up the Crump Kings and was like, listen, I'm coming in town. I've been talking to their manager, which was this like Indian dude. So then we met up with these guys at a church, pulled out our drums, and then we went into the church. Then they kicked us out the church. So when they kicked us out the church, we went to the parking lot, pulled all our cars up, turned on the headlights, and we just had this crazy ass session with African drums and crumping in the middle of LA in a parking lot. Wow. So that shit was crazy. So then I'm like, okay, so I'm talking to them. So now at the time, this is 90. This is 2000. I gotta look at the flyer. 2005, 2006. So at the time, Beat Your Feet had kind of diminished. People weren't doing the dance as much because some violence around it. I think it was after Slush got killed, right? So Slush is the founder of Beat Your Feet. Yeah. So I think he was in a battle. Somehow he got killed. And after that, people kind of stopped doing the dance. But you would still see some youngins. Now, at the time, I was always working in Southeast, too. So through the Upper Bound program, I was in and out of Johnson. I was in and out of Ballou. I was in and out of Spingarn. I was in and out of Simon Elementary. So all of the schools I'm in and out of, Miller. Like everybody, if you from DC, you know the schools that I'm talking about are legendary. These are not I wasn't in Wilson. You know what I'm saying? So I could see the youngins still doing some of the dance, battling. So I was like, I wonder if we could bring Beat Your Feet back, but do it as so let me bring the Crump Kings to DC and let me do something and have something that's called the Battle for Peace. Mm-hmm. So I got the Crump Kings to come to DC. So now once I organized them coming to DC, I had to find a group of kids who could beat your feet.
Come to battle or whatever. Yeah.
Gotcha. Right. So what I did was I just found this video I got one of the dudes that play buckets on the street at Stadium Armory Station. And then I got my brother Jabari Exum.
Yep.
To play dununs, to play our stick drums. And I basically had them play a pocket together. And I did a competition. And I think I was offering $100 for the best person who could beat their feet.
Okay.
So it's basically like a crowd of people gathering around. Now at this session, Crazy Legs came, Jay. This when he was a skinny ass, peanut head ass little nigga.
He's still pretty skinny, but
I hope he's watching because he know I can say that about him. Like he was shy, he was super shy, like he ain't really want to dance. Jay came. Well, first of all, Jose and Dante, they started hitting me up. Jose, Dante, and Richard started hitting me up like, man, is this battle for real? Because can't nobody fuck with us in the city. I was like, say less, young man. Just come show me what you know, and you can win unloud. Like it ain't nothing.
You didn't say less back then because wasn't nobody even saying that then. But I got
you're right. I didn't say less. I probably was like, just show up. Don't be booked because I needed some people to show up, and I'm like, I already got the Kings on contract. I paid them a deposit. Shit, I need to make sure that I can pull this battle off.
Right.
So, because I was mixing crumping, West African drumming, and beat your feet. That's right. Tough. So it actually started with the dance. So yeah, so Dante, Jose was blowing me up, basically telling me they the best in the city.
Right.
And Richard was their boy. Now, at the time, they didn't know Jay. They didn't know Crazy Legs.
Okay.
Crazy Legs was just this dude standing in the audience who was just kind of like watching.
Right.
So then when he came out to dance, I was like, oh, snap. Like, shorty got moves. So now I got these four. So at the end of it, I exchanged numbers with all of them, and I basically told them what was going to happen. So since we had the Crump Kings, we came up with the Beat Your Feet Kings. At the time, I had this big 15-passenger van that I nicknamed Buford. Right?
Of course you did.
So whenever I would bring Buford out, I ain't had no seats in it. And, again, I was saying Spider DJ, back in the day when you were in DC used to be like hookup central. So I used to have to hook up on everything.
Yeah.
I had all of this sound equipment, like a 24-track board, speakers, wires. So then I started going out to 6th Street Southeast to Jose and Dante house. I used to run the wires out their house, set up all of the speakers in the street, and have them practice.
Okay.
Y'all got to prepare for the Crump Kings coming. These niggas are serious. They are not like, you see they got a movie out. Like, this is their real lifestyle. They don't play around with this.
How long between the time that you started talking to them and you did this sort of contest and the actual event when they were practicing? Like, how long was that span of time?
Man, I think we had a few months.
Okay. But it wasn't like a couple of weeks or a week or something.
No. We had a few months.
Okay.
So again, all of that even leads to why I even got the studio. One of the reasons why I wound up getting that studio on Mount Rainier is because I was working with them, and I was like, if we're gonna be serious, and at the time, the Jabberwockies had won America's Best Dance Crew.
Yeah, with the white.
Like, I was like, if y'all want to take the Jabberwocky spot, you gotta practice. That shit ain't happening without serious practice. So I was like, well, I'm gonna invest and get a studio so y'all can have a place to practice. So it made sense for me to add the studio to what we was already doing, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so yeah, man. So I put this week together called The Souls of Black Folk. At the time, I was also reading W.E.B. Du Bois' The Souls of Black Folk, and he had talked about the veil of consciousness in the Southern Belt and that double veil of consciousness of Black life. And I felt like that related to Crumpin', Beat Your Feet, and all of the various Black experiences. So I put that together. So I had a battle at UDC in the gymnasium, and a whole bunch of dudes from DC came out to battle. So it was really.
And this is, did you use your connections at UDC from having gone there to make this happen? Because some of the stuff you're like, yeah, I invested in this, and then I got a studio and all that. So part of what I want people to understand is that some of this stuff is attainable. Like it's things that you can do, and a lot of the thing that I think that we miss in go-go is the importance of relationships, how relationships work, and there's a really sort of prevalent thought process in DC that, oh, well, this person only got on because they knew this person. And it's like, okay, well, then instead of just saying, oh, well, fuck them, they ain't shit because they only knew that person, figure out how you can know that person too. So that's something I always want to explore in these is how to build, maintain, and utilize relationships, and for people to understand that relationships work both ways. It's not just you help me out; it's we help each other out. So I just wanted to know, like, in that respect, like, how did the UDC thing come about? Because you don't just walk up to UDC and be like, yeah, let me get your gymnasium and do a battle, like,
right. So number one, I'm working at UDC.
Okay, you were working there. Okay, that makes sense.
So I went but I still had to write a proposal. And at the time, the person who was in charge of special events, I had a relationship with, as you said, because one, I volunteered and I used to help her whenever they needed help. I helped out with homecoming at UDC before. I was the senior class president when I graduated. I protested the control board and shut down Connecticut Avenue to help save teachers' salaries at UDC. I used to break in and let me take you even back. I did that with big brother Al Malik Farrakhan. Yep. So we talked about Ron Moten's pops. So I was out the street with Moten's pops and Mo. Before Mo came back home, that's how I met him. I was doing that with Ceasefire, Don't Smoke the Brothers, another Uptown connection. You know what I'm saying? So what you're saying about relationships is important. And I agree. I think what we do in DC is we even get stuck in one lane in one relationship. So if you know somebody from one way, then you feel like that's the only way you should know them for the rest of your life, as if people don't grow out doing different things. So you should be able to call. For example, me and you don't talk a lot, but as soon as I got the message, I said yes.
Yep.
It was no, what's this? Can send me in. I need it. It was like, yes, no problem.
Yeah. Which I appreciate. Thank you very much.
No. But it's a relationship that is there that you know that you can make the call. It ain't a reach. It's not a stretch, and nobody's gonna have a problem doing it. Right. So I had to do that. I still had to pay. You know what I'm saying? But I was able to work it out. And at the time we didn't really have Facebook like it is now or Instagram. So it was just like trying to get a journalist to write a story. So the Washington Post did come out. So after that battle, the dancers came to me and was like, we want to take this serious. We don't want to just do this for the Crump Kings. We want to go beyond. Okay. We want this to be our thing. I said, I got y'all. Like, if this what y'all want to do, I'm willing to work with y'all and help to make this for real, but you're going to have to practice. Like, it's a big difference between doing this battle and setting up a real dance group where you want to get to America's Best Dance Group and be the Jabberwockies choreography. Right. Portia Queen P came in later. I forgot exactly when Portia came in, but Portia came in and she brought that stage presence, that stage blocking that you need for choreography, because she was already into that side of it. So
that's all I was gonna say. Was she like, how did she know that? Was she like a theater person or was dancing, or like what was her background to know that?
She was already a badass dancer. Okay. And then she had already had some formal training in performing. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? With various hip hop groups. So she understood dancing professionally at a different level. Gotcha. I understood it at a level. So yeah, I had Beat Your Feet Kings in my shows at Dance Place during Dance Africa. I took Beat Your Feet Kings. I wound up writing this proposal, and I took Beat Your Feet Kings to Lowell, Massachusetts for a folk festival. And I basically wrote the proposal and was like, go-go is folk music, is bluegrass folk music based on the definition. What? I got the video of that, and this was, I guess, what band I took.
Was this the Junkyard, the J-Mob? I mean, not J-Mob. What were they called? Art of Jump, or you took Backyard to this one?
No, this was Black Alley before they was Black Alley.
Yeah.
This was like 2011, and that's because Omar is my brother. So I think I hit O or Cam, and I was like, look, I got this thing. You know what I'm saying? I wrote this grant. He was like, oh, no doubt. I drove up there and back with a trailer myself. Like people don't really get, like, people in DC respect other cats when they see the unsung stories and they see these other stories about what people did, right, and how they did it and what they had to do to get on. Like I just got finished watching this Kevin Hart series on Netflix, the series called Don't Fuck This Up, as he went through. Yeah, it's like a 6-part miniseries. It's really dope because it just talks about behind the scenes, everything. I appreciate it because it's a story about how one black man went to the top with his brothers and how he made sure that everybody was going to make it together. You know what I'm saying? How they supported him, how they keep him honest. So most people don't really look at all of the things that somebody has done before they got to a certain place, and they feel like I said,
they see the results, they don't see the process.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, people always be like, "Oh, I'll take your paycheck." I'll be like, "I'll give it to you if you take my bills. Now let me see you work magic."
Right. Well, wait, we got to back up a little bit because you already went to 2011, so I want to go back a little bit to 2000, at least 2010, because that's when we met. Which you may or may not remember, but you were Mamouna Youssef at the time, and I was doing an event in Annapolis, where I'm from, at the place called the Whiskey, and I initially started it doing more sort of like the U Street, kind of neo soul crowd stuff like Carolyn Malachi and all of them, and I think
I remember the Whiskey. I remember driving out to Annapolis like, I hope the police don't pull me over.
But yeah, I think that at that time I had, this was obviously after Mambo Sauce. I think I left Mambo Sauce in 2008, right before the album came out. And then 2009, I worked with Nick Hakim for a little while, who went on to do a lot of other great things. He went to college, and so that's when I stopped working with him. And then David Corey for a little while. And then I started doing this thing at the Whiskey, and I was working with a couple of girls from Annapolis named Kirby Lane. And I had put sort of the band together behind them. They were like hosting, and it was Biscuit and Sound of the City. Biscuit and those guys was the house band at first, and I think Carolyn Malachi was the first artist, and Mamouna was maybe like the second or third that I brought down. And I worked with you, and I was like, this guy is on top of his shit, and I really appreciated it. And it was again like. This was not like I was paying people because I couldn't, paying people thousands of dollars to come down and play. Carolyn Malachi had just gotten nominated for a Grammy, and she came down and played for 50% of the door. You know what I'm saying? But and Mamouna came, and I just remember being like, this is the rawest show I've ever seen. Like, she can sing, she can rap, she's bad as shit. She's just the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? So
best to ever do it.
Yeah. So can you talk about how you linked up with her and how that went, and just briefly?
Yes. So so again, Jabari Exum, I did a show at Dance Place. I wrote, produced, and directed this show called and I was in it, called what was the name of the damn play? Something. It'll come back to me. Mm-hmm. So it was just really this wild ass production about this guy who was basically dealing with 4 subconsciousness: ego, order, chaos, and humility. So I had Jason, Anderson, John Johnson, my homegirl Amina West, and Jabari Jabari Exum as the.
I want to stop you for 1 second because somebody just commented on this YouTube and said, Wiggers gentrify DC. Now we help them gentrify go-go. So I don't know who you are, Wendell Church, but just so you know, I've been playing go-go for 25 years. Yes, I'm fully conscious of my complexion, but I played for every top band pretty much in the city. And I created Mambo Sauce and a song you might have heard called Welcome to DC, which is me playing guitar on it, as well as Miracles. So, I appreciate your concern. Yes, I am concerned with the gentrification of DC as well. And, I'm not some white co-opter who is trying to take over GoGo. I've been involved in GoGo for 25 years. So just so we can clear that up. So anyway, sorry about that, Diallo.
And he used white emojis. I remember he texted me with a white emoji, and I was like, bruh, I never received a white emoji from a white guy. Like, you never know.
I'm always conflicted on Instagram on Get GoGoTix, like whether I should do it or not because of exactly comments like that. So I just use the yellow one that's like, just racially ambiguous. But
and I'm gonna tell you, for the guy who made this comment, I mean, you don't know me either. If I felt like in any way, shape, or form, like that Malachi wasn't just a true dude and committed to the cause more than a lot of people, regardless of their color, I wouldn't be here. I mean, you know that too. I mean, you kind of know how we go and just with my background and all of that. So, but so
I appreciate the concern. Don't get me wrong that I don't appreciate the concern, but that's just not me. So you can look me up and do your research. So anyway, sorry, go ahead, Diallo.
Where were we at? We were at okay, Maimuna. So then Maimuna was from Baltimore. She had her group Sirius B, and Jabari was basically like you and Diallo need to work together. So he had mentioned it to me, I mentioned it to Maimuna, and we both were just kind of doing our own thing, like, okay, we'll meet whenever we meet. And then it was after she came to this play. And I think it was because I was in the play, I wrote it, I produced it, I directed it, and it was just a wild ass concept. Like, there's this scene in the play where I'm sleeping in the bed, and then I have I basically acted out my dream. So I had a dream that I had actors do, and I had a stripper. So and the stripper took all her clothes off. So everybody was just like, yo, my mother was like, I'm looking in her vagina.
Well,
and I'm like,
actually in the play, you had the actor or this?
It was a stripper. I got a real live stripper to strip for 60 seconds as a part of my dream. So my mom was like, son, I'm looking at her vagina. I said, Mom, strippers don't have on clothes in my dreams. Like, they're not clothes, they're naked. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was a real part of my life.
That's kind of the point of the dream, Mom.
Right. So I was so after that, Maimuna and I talked. So then we went through a period of like 9 months, maybe, just kind of getting to know each other. Like, really, Maimuna's a real special person. Yep. So then we kind of started working. And so then from there, it just kind of, we started working together. I was literally in every studio session. I was in the rehearsals. I was in the rehearsals. We went to Nigeria twice together. We did a whole bunch of other traveling together, did some albums together, and we worked together for a couple of years before we stopped working together, and then we both kind of went our separate ways. So, but that for me was, it was a real, so at the time that I was working with Maimuna, I had the Beat Your Feet Kings. So it was like, I had Fadafina Khan, which is my family group, my West African drum and dance group, which is going to be there forever. Fadafina is not like a group you manage, it's life. Like right now, my son, my nephew and them, they just recorded an album, which is fucking crazy. And I'm gonna tell you about that full circle because my son was just the musical director for the 2020 GOGO Awards. Like, he just put together this crazy ass clip with them. So, so it was like Maimuna, it was Beat Your Feet Kings, it was Fadafina Khan. I had already done Almaz on U Street, which is the old Kafa house. Yep. I had already done State of the Union. Me and Spider did State of the Union. Me and Spider opened up the Red Lounge on 14th Street. We was the one that first started the Red Lounge. We called State of the Union as it was going out. But then we opened up Almaz. Up and Up started at Almaz. My brother-in-law Kurt introduced me to Truth and them and was like, yo, they got this dope concept. So they did like 2 in Almaz and then outgrew it and went to Live. So then started working with Omrao at Live. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you do. So for me, I'm doing all of these things I'm married, got 2 kids, 1, 2, 3 jobs, and I got the studio in Mount Rainier and these 3 groups. So it's like
That's a
you
lot.
doing, yeah, you doing a lot.
You're making me tired just talking about it.
So yeah. So that's kind of what happened there. And then when I look back, I realized that everything I did, I felt like was preparing me for whatever life had in store for me. Like,
Right.
because each thing I did, I felt like was the thing I was born for.
For sure.
So like you don't do a thing and be like, oh, this is just a stepping stone. So when I was doing Beat Your Feet, it wasn't like, oh, this is just a stepping stone. It was like, we're going to go to America's Best Dance Crew and we're going to make it. You know what I'm saying?
This is a totally selfish question. So if everything you did, you feel like was what you were born for, how do you deal with it when it doesn't either finish the way that you want? Because I felt like I was born to do mambo sauce and to be the person that helped usher go into the international stage, and it didn't end up the way that I wanted it to, and it was soul crushing for me. You know what I'm saying? So how do you deal with those things that they don't end up going the way that you expected them to go, if you have that level of confidence and
it's a few things. One is faith. So it's like a certain amount of faith helps you see that that you could be wrong. It's humility, and then it's passion, because when you have that passion, it's like this clip with Bruce Lee is like, be like water, and they say water always finds the lowest point. Like, there you go. Exactly.
Be like water, my friend. Yep.
It's like you're going to find something else. You're going to find the crack, the leak, because it has to come out. So what happens, because once it happens once or twice, then you're clear that a door was opened, you entered, and you got to do it like the next door is not going to open, but at the same time, you're prepared for when the next door opens. So every time you come to that crossroads, you have an opportunity to stay the same, or you have an opportunity to grow. And for me, I've always chosen to grow. I've chosen to move to the next thing with grace, and leave the door open and do my best to maintain great relationships. Now, there are some relationships where I very happily pour gasoline on a fucking bridge and throw a match. And those are the ones where you don't look back. You like, I don't give a fuck if they become a billionaire. I'm happy for them, but I ain't interested in working with them no more. And you got to be okay with that. You can't leave every relationship open because somebody else might make it and you might need them. You can't live like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have to keep it real. So yeah, man. So it's one of those things that you have an opportunity to grow, and you have to take that opportunity to grow. And it was always, every time something happened, it was either a lateral move or it was going up. And then sometimes you got to take 5 steps back in order to take 20 steps forward.
Right. Yeah, I feel
but
you.
It's faith that for those who believe in a higher power, it's faith that you're covered, that you're protected, and that God is not going to give you nothing that you can't handle. So it's, I ain't trying to sound preachy, but it literally is faith. So because, you dump your money into something and it don't work. Now, if you consider that a loss, then maybe you need to look at it differently. I don't consider anything a loss. For me, it's all a learning experience, and it's a building block that's stacked. And it's gotten me to the point where I feel like I can move around the world with a certain level of confidence, go to any country, any place I go. And if there's an opportunity, I know how to pursue it, and I can see it through and make it happen.
Gotcha. Well, that's a very important point. That's something that I'm learning to do myself. I would say that I'm probably a little further back on that than you are, my friend. But yeah,
no, it hurts, bro. Like,
though, because
it doesn't hurt any less. Like trust me. But you got to get into it. It's like, what's life without pain? Like, pain is like seasoning.
Right.
Pain is like seasoning on that barbecue. You got to season it, and most people you don't. It's almost like you ain't gonna really. You're not gonna get there without pain. If you think you're gonna get there without pain, you crazy. So for me, I've always been like, all of the pain turns into fuel. It's like fossil fuel.
Yep.
So I churn that pain and then I use that as energy. But everything that, regardless of what comes in, it has to come out positive for me.
That's heavy. And it's important. I mean, I think it's important we kind of have these conversations around go-go because they're just, I feel like within the community, there's just there's just sort of a negative outlook on anything that goes wrong at any given time. And certainly something that I've subscribed to from, being, within the community for a long time. And it's definitely a challenge for me to try to get out of that mode of thinking. And so I'm hoping that, part of the reason for doing this show was to bring other lines of thought and processes, into the community so that we can start thinking a little bit differently, hopefully. And because in my opinion, like go-go is literally the most powerful form of live music that there is. Back to the experience you were talking about at the WST, where it's literally a transformational experience, or transcendental experience, however you want to describe it. Like there just isn't anything like it. And I've seen live almost every other genre of music there is, all the way up to, Anthrax, Megadeth, the Slayer, and Alice in Chains all on the same concert. And it still is not, that's like the loudest, craziest music ever. And it's still nothing to the experience of go-go. But
we have to expand our minds to get there because we forget who Run DMC toured with. Run DMC toured with rock bands. Like we forget who Public Enemy toured with. So somebody in the go-go scene on the promotion, marketing, admin side, somebody has to have that vision and start to say, we're going to put our band on this rock tour, or we're going to put our band on this bluegrass funk tour, where you might be the only go-go band and there's 5 or 6 other different genres, and you got to have confidence and faith that you can do it. And then sometime, because we're about to start getting into the business of go-go in DC. And one of the things I understand about that is if you playing 4 times a week and getting your money, you're not going to necessarily be excited about, you ain't got to leave. So even if you book in a go-go band outside of town, they can demand a certain price from you because they're going to be missing 2 or 3 gigs. Like, and and I'm like, shit, I done paid goddamn $50 to get in the Aqua plus $40 for the cut line or whatever. It might cost $100 to get in the go-go. But I pay the shit. I pay it. Like, you can, I've never, even after I took the band to Africa, out of respect, I don't get to the door and be like, somebody called, hey, G, I'm coming. Get me at the door. Nah, man, look, I'm a supporter because when you come to my motherfucking show, you're going to pay. So,
right.
I'm a support. Like I'm just not that guy. I don't like hanging out front when I'll pay, man. I want everything that's afforded to me when I get inside. I don't want nobody to be like, nigga, I used to let you.
Also because you're like an international baller dude too, you know what I'm saying? So that's But my man Fillmore Wax, who's on here a lot. I'm sorry, Bintu Kuyate. I was avoiding saying that because I knew I was going to butcher the pronunciation.
But you said it properly. You said it correctly. That's one of my little sisters. What's up, Fune?
Okay. So I didn't want to seem like I was ignoring her, but man, Fillmore Wax that's on here, he watches almost every one of these shows. He's out in the Bay Area. He's a big go-go fan. But he says, I think a lot of blues festivals could have benefited from hiring go-go bands. And I do as well. But therein lies the root, what you just described is the root of the problem, one of the roots of the problem, I should say, with go-go getting outside of the area, is that it's one thing to say, I want to command this price because I'm missing out on this money in DC. It's another thing for a promoter in California or Texas to say, I'm going to pay you this price because there is absolutely no evidence that there is a demand for your music for that I would have any reasonable expectation that people are going to show up and pay for a ticket to come see you, because you have done there's no recording circulating within the marketplace. There's no videos circulating online. There's nothing that is appealing to. Like I just got off the phone with my man. Maybe I shouldn't say the name of the band because I don't want to put them out. But there's a very popular band in DC who I was looking at the streaming numbers from someone that's working with them on their streaming, and their streaming numbers, and I don't know what the time period was, maybe a week or something, or a month, maybe 60,000 in DC. And the next biggest market was Ohio. I couldn't really see which city, probably, Cleveland or something, Ohio. And it was like 20 listeners, right? So you're talking about a precipitous drop off because go-go bands or go-go artists, do not have a plan in place to export the music to other marketplaces. And now, go ahead.
No, I agree with you, but I wouldn't say that it's a problem. I'm gonna tell you why I wouldn't say that it's a problem. Jazz has been around since the turn of the century. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's still growing. And it took some time. Go-go is still fairly young, right? But in the history books, I'm going to say in the history of go-go, in 100 years, we need to be able to look back to see that there was a Malachi Johns who was pushing go-go to expand its borders. Not to say that in 100 years it won't be, but you just might be, and it's okay to be before your time. Like there's always people that are before their time because one of my mentors told me the problem with being a visionary is that you see what nobody else sees. And then he's like, and if you see what everybody else sees, then you ain't seeing shit.
Right.
So it's like that you kind of stuck in between, and because I deal with that too, and I'll be like, oh, this could happen. Everybody be like, what the fuck, nigga? You want some Jackson shit? And I'm like, but I see it. But it's okay because right now the bands may need to stay local. Like there's still work that go-go bands have to do. So I hope go-go bands, because they've been performing for 25, 30 years and been together for 25, 30 years, don't feel like that there's not more work to be done, even musically, even stage-wise, even performance-wise, right? There's more that can be done with the traditional go-go band from a performance perspective. There's more songs, and as you know, it's something that I know you're an advocate for. These go-go bands are not going to be able to get mechanical royalties, or they're not going to be able to get this other money. It's not going to be able to make it into movies. Anybody who loves go-go, such as myself, who want to put a documentary out, or who wants to do this, or who wants to shop something to Netflix, now is going to be a little bit prohibitive because I can't fucking clear. I can't clear this song. I can't get this song cleared for Netflix. But if it was an original song that was just as dope, I could. So for me, the only reason why I'm saying it's not a problem is because I don't feel like there's a time limit and this is the end. Like I'm looking at like what I would love to see, and I'm sure they're doing it, is I think what's most important is that the go-go bands, the Essence, the Jump, the EU, the Back, like those guys all need to have understudies. Like, so all of these young bands coming up, I'm hoping that not only are they talking to them about music, but they're talking to them about the experiences that they've had, the business of go-go. I would love to see more individuals in go-go work with their band, but then also start doing voiceovers. Some of these guys who are the musical directors, they need to, maybe some of them even they can teach themselves how to write music, start doing movie scores. Like you can't, go-go's not going to get there by go-go alone. So the individual players of go-go, such as yourself, right, who write music, who do this, who do that, kind of have to break off and get into the industry and bring go-go along.
Well, that's sort of what I'm talking about. But there's a couple things I want to touch on before I forget, because I'm old and I forget shit now after like 45 seconds. Is that the you talked about it's not too late, there's not a timeline. Well, first of all, I want to clarify what my position is and what the lens that I'm always looking through is. Jazz obviously is a powerful and an important cultural movement, but also there is, like, jazz is not popular form of music right now. Like, it's not in pop culture. You know what I'm saying? And what I worry about, and when we're talking about the time limit, we're talking about the youngest bands in go-go. Like, most of the bounce beat bands are still in their 30s. If you remember when you were like 15 years old, somebody that was 30, it was like, that's your dad. You know what I'm saying? It's not cool anymore. And so I had a conversation on this same show with Chris Richards from the Washington Post a couple months ago, and he was talking about the beauty of the fact that go-go is passed down from generation to generation. And I said, yeah, but we're at the generation where it stopped already now. Right now, like, the teenagers don't give a shit about it. They're listening to hip hop and R&B. You know what I'm saying? So, and maybe not even R&B, definitely hip hop. In whatever form that manifests itself right now. So the lens that I'm looking at this through is not that go-go is not a culturally relevant and important form of music. What I worry about is that it becomes a museum piece. And I mean that figuratively and literally, because literally Ron Moten is making a go-go museum right now. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's amazing, and I think it's great. But I also think that if we just start looking at it as this sort of historical thing that happened in DC, I think we're cutting off the potential that there is, because I don't think that there's any form of music from a live perspective that is more powerful than go-go music. You know what I'm saying? There just isn't. Like, not from an audience perspective, I've seen almost every genre there is, and from actually playing on stage, I've been a musician in multiple different genres of bands, and there just is no comparison. However, we don't know how to make we don't know how to do the things that make other genres relevant in the popular culture, which is, make records, first of all, and understand how to distribute those records in a way that is relevant. Like, people are still like talking about CDs. We're like 20 years beyond CDs right now. You know what I'm saying? So that's my fear, is that it becomes a sort of a, that's a cool little thing that's encased in amber over here that we can look at, like, oh, look at this cool thing that came out of DC. And I feel like there's so much more potential for it to, to be a player on the international stage. But there's just a lot.
I agree. I'll say that I agree with you fully. And when people look back in the history books, I want people to see me standing there with you, like, yeah, these guys did their best to help go-go move forward, right? Yep. But I also get when you got to eat, and you got 4 shows a week at home that's paying your bills, and and you're making good money. You're making better money than people with master's degrees. You know what I'm saying? You're making.
Let's also clarify that not everybody is making that money. That's why I had Natalie Hopkins on here as well a couple of months ago, and she was she made a comment in the TV One documentary that in my opinion sort of made a slightly fantastical view of go-go as this vibrant economy where the black dollar circulates. And while I would love to see that happen, I know almost every go-go musician there is, not all of them surely, but most of them. And I talk to a lot of them on a fairly frequent basis, online and offline. And I can count about 10 of them that make their full-time living off of go-go. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that in order to make a bigger impact in the international scene, it's got to be from younger people because if you look at almost every artist in any genre that's become successful over a long period of time, they started before they had responsibilities of children and mortgages and those kind of things. And so I understand that when, now you're probably your average go-go musician is 35, 40 years old, and we all got bills to pay. You know what I'm saying? So, and so that's what I'm worried about, is that the only people, but also we're the only ones that are now sort of figuring out, oh yeah, well, this is what it actually takes to make it in the bigger music industry, which is a totally different, I don't want to say the bigger music industry, but the recorded music industry and the international touring music industry, which is a completely different strategy than how you become backyard.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which one is not right and one is not wrong. But where I get frustrated is when people employ one strategy and then complain that they don't get the other result.
It's so a couple things I think have to happen. The bands, number one, have to see the value in it.
Yep. There's no example.
See the value in traveling and in what is going to be some sacrifice for the growth of the culture.
Yep.
And some may not care, because they may not care if people outside of DC care about go-go music, right? And then the bands are literally going to have to work on and think about, how do we make this transition from a live band that thrives off of audience interaction and the energy of the audience to a musical group that could do that and go into the studio and either take direction from a songwriter and a producer, or combine their own creative energies to create a song. Like, I don't know that there's been, and I'm not just saying this because you're on here, outside of doing the butt, because I've heard some of the other, like there was another song that just came out that was like on the radio, but I don't know if I think Welcome to DC Mumbo Sauce may be the best pop version of a go-go song that's on the radio that people can hear. Like, I know the Beach and Feet Kings use it a lot. I remember when I got the contract for them for the Washington Wizards and the Mystics, that was the song that they came and did the 60-second breaks to. Yep. And musically, it has the I don't want to say, it has the je ne sais quoi. It has the it has the spirit and the vibe of a radio song. Right. Now, I don't know how to make a record. Like, I don't know how to make a record, but I know when I hear a record. Like, I'm very clear when I hear a record. Like, I'm the guy you kind of want to have in your studio with you, where when you play it, I'm like, that's it, bro. That's it right there. Like, just tweak whatever you got to do, but that's the fucking sound you want. Yep. And Welcome to DC has that. I mean, just not in the lyrics, but the music and the whole everything. Even the way Black does his verses, it has that. You know what I'm saying? And the bands have to decide. Like, they have to decide if that's what they want. They have to decide, because if they want it, then they'll have it. Like, I honestly believe that if they want it, they'll have it. Like after I took Backyard to Africa, the number of bands who kind of hit me up and was like, yeah, we want to go to, or we want to do this and we want to do that. It was kind of like, I'm like, I did that for Go-Go and I did that for Backyard, but I probably did it for my ancestors more than Go-Go and Backyard.
Well, all right. So let's stop for a second, because that's a further conversation that I definitely want to get into there. So I guess, well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate the compliment on the Welcome to DC thing. That was a very intentional thing. And, I just had a conversation the other day. Do you know Tuma? Tuma Pasa? So he lived in DC for a while. He worked at BET, and then he went on to work at MTV Networks with Majima Pickett. Majima Pickett used to work at PTC back in the day, and she's the one You know, Tabby Benet directed. He was, you know, my friend and client as well. Directed Welcome to DC video, and Majima was working at MTV, and that's how we got. Now, granted, it again. This goes back to the relationship thing. There was a relation. I had a relationship with Tabby. Tabby had a relationship with Majima, but also Majima wasn't just like, oh, you know, Tabby, and he did the video. Cool, I'll put it on MTV. It was like, what else do you have going on? And I was like, we're getting 60 spins a week across two radio stations in a major market. Like there was shit happening. You know what I mean? So you got to have something to bring to the table. But Kuma was also at MTV at the time, and he then went on to Spotify and created the Rap Caviar playlist and curated the Rap Caviar playlist for, I don't know, 3 years or something. Now he's the head of Black music at YouTube. So he was on a conversation. I don't really know him. We've met once or twice, but we're not like friends or anything. But we were having a conversation that he was involved with about GoGo. And of course, now that I went through all of those details, I forgot what the hell point I was making, but I thought maybe you might know him. But what the hell was it? It was about because I'm trying to remember what the questions he was asking, because the conversation, the topic of the conversation is, why is GoGo still only in DC? And
we were talking about
it was sort of being precious about the music, because he was talking about drill music. Right. And he was talking about how it started in Chicago, and then people picked it up in the UK, and then people picked it up in New York. And then it sort of became this bigger thing. And then this was leading me to the question that I was going to ask you, because in order to do that, like you can't really, like, if from a straight up musician perspective, like you kind of need to have grown up in GoGo and growing up in the area to be able to play it. I've seen some of the best musicians in the world, which is a whole nother story for another time, try to play GoGo.
They can't get the vibe.
Play it because it's a feel thing. But my question to you is, do you need a band to be GoGo? Because all these things we're discussing are what a band needs to do. And and you know what a band has done or what a band needs to do. And I have a rather controversial point of view about this, that maybe the solution for GoGo to be more successful on a broader level and is to not be a band as the artist. It doesn't mean that you don't use a band on the recordings. It doesn't mean that you don't tour with the band if the budget allows for it. But to me, it's a controversial topic. But if you really look at
it, I'm going to say it's not that controversial, because in music, it got to have growth. So,
but even if you look at the start, Chuck Brown was the artist. Soul Searchers was the band.
Right.
This has not been the case for the entire history of GoGo, but somehow we've internalized that it has to be Backyard or Rare Essence or whatever. It has to be the band, and that's not necessarily the case, in my opinion.
I don't think you know, Chuck Brown came from an era of musicianship.
Yep.
Like, he's a musician, he's an artist. He came from that era of artist and musicianship, so it was easy for him to be the artist.
Yep.
And I don't think that you have to have a band to have GoGo, but I think that's going to be that growth arm that people are going to have to accept, because a lot of people are going to fight it. I can tell you that right now, only because they might be limited in vision, or they might not see how important it is. But the branch doesn't, when a tree grows and the branch comes out, it doesn't change the roots. It's actually the roots that keeps the branches strong. So people have to.
Best analogy I've ever heard, and I'm plagiarizing it just so you're aware.
People are going to have to see what the benefit is, and somebody, possibly you, because you have the talent, the skill, and you also have the wherewithal in the industry and the knowledge, and you can actually make a record. Somebody needs to fucking go to work. I'm gonna just tell you right now. Somebody has to stop worrying about what every fucking body else is thinking. Somebody has to stop worrying about who not gonna like them. Somebody's gonna have to stop going through all of that shit. Go in your fucking studio and start making some go-go tracks and start making some fucking music and stop talking about it. Because what
you can say that, because that's already what's happening, but we'll talk about that later.
Right. But that, and then that's it. And then it's like the people who don't like it are not gonna like it. until they benefit from it, because most people are going to fight it until they see how it benefits them. Then it's like, oh shit, I thought this was going to cancel my gig, but it actually made them strong. Okay, I support now, and that's fine. It's like somebody kind of got to step out and do that. Like that's what go-go, I feel like that's a part of what go-go needs. And then people who love go-go, and people who are interested in the culture of it, we need to memorialize, but then also extend what that is and how that happens in life. So it's like, you know, I mean, I'm glad that DC stepped up and put up a little bit of money to kind of make something happen. But then, like, the bands and the leaders of go-go have to step up and be leaders. Like, you know, it's one of those things where it's one of those situations where I kind of feel like sometimes everybody want to be liked. So nobody wants to do something that's going to have everybody else talking about them, or that's going to have everybody saying like, oh, they, you know, them niggas, they not for the culture. And they're like, man, like, you know, like when you get older, it's like, man, I don't give a fuck what these people talking about. Who are they? What are they doing? Like, it doesn't really matter who they are and what they're talking about. Right. Because at the same time, okay, I'm in the studio making these tracks, this, and I'm trying to get go-go out there. But I know that there is no replacing a live go-go band in that element. And maybe because right now, so I'm looking at the time, and I want to get into I want to just kind of get into a little bit about Backyard coming to Africa.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to segue into that. So finish your thought, and then let's get into that.
Yeah. See, now I forgot what the fuck I was about to say. Damn it.
Welcome to my life.
What was I saying? Okay, it'll come back to me. Oh, what I was about to say was, like, people, go-go has to be willing to go a place. Let's say if the band goes someplace, it has to be willing to go to that place and be okay with the people who like it and the people who don't.
Right.
And then you can't decide not to go back because not enough people who you felt like you wanted to like it liked it. You got to earn that. You got to earn that by, and then go-go fans have a responsibility too. The fans of go-go music and the people who love go-go, they have a responsibility. You have a responsibility that if your band is traveling somewhere, you either have a responsibility to show up, or you have a responsibility to call your family and friends in that area. And then I'm sure we can do a lot better with marketing and data collection and stuff like that. People who grew up in DC are all over the world. So I don't know how many people are doing market research. So if a go-go band goes to Texas, like, you're literally going to maybe all of the DC public high school alumni databases to see who was in Texas from these high schools. Like,
literally, RC and the Grits is a client of mine who was actually brought to me by Omar, right. And, you know, our mutual friend. I want to make sure I give him credit because he never publicly gives me credit for any advice I gave him while he was putting Black Alley together. So I'm going to return the favor that he never gave me in the first place, which is give him credit for the fact that he introduced me to RC and the Grits, and now they're my client. And they play with a guy named Sean Martin all the time in Dallas. Sean Martin does a go-go show in Texas, like they do, and they call it RC and the Grits is the name of RC's band, and then Sean Martin, and they call it Grits and Go-Go in Houston, Texas. I mean, in Dallas, Texas. So yeah, there are definitely people all over the world that like it. There's just not a big enough concentration of anybody anywhere to, make it worth the while of a promoter to pay, what a 12-person go-go band wants to replace their income from playing locally. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but I think that idea that you just had, I think is great. Like the high school. Looking up.
Yeah, like some way of just basically saying, and then sometimes if the band wants to do it, I remember when my group Fadafina Khan, West African Drum and Dance, we wind up doing like the Dayton Black Cultural Arts Festival for 8 or 10 years or something, because I think the first year I did it for a little bit of money. We drove, I think I did it basically for travel, transportation, and meals. Might even had to put my own bread in. But then we got hired for the next 8 years. And we drove on a road. Like a lot of the gigs that we still have now that we do without thinking about is because we did once or twice, like took a chance.
Took a hit.
Yep. Now, I mean, it's a different thing, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where I think that this year, if anything, should have woken everybody up.
I hope so.
Because if this year ain't wake you up,
then
nothing will wake you up, because you ain't been able to play since March. You ain't been able to play for a crowd since. Well, I know that some bands have started.
Yeah, some have, but it's still spotty and it's up and down, and it's not.
Yeah, but it's still not the same as, you know, you ain't going to Aqua every Friday.
Right. Real quick, Measurable Odds made a comment here that I think is important in this conversation. They said DC Week in Miami every year, we support our bands, which is 100% is correct. But I also want to make sure that people understand the difference between a trip that is taking a group of people from DC to another city to go see a go-go band perform that they normally would go see in their city. That DC band, Miami Takeover, my man Wiley K is my man. He was on the show a couple weeks ago as well. It's my homie. But what he does is different. He's making a trip full of DC people to Miami every year and putting go-go on it. That's different than Miami people gravitating towards go-go. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to make that delineation, but that's also a perfect segue into what we need to get into, which is you taking Backyard to Africa. So because you I think you did sort of a combination of both, if I remember correctly. You did a trip of DC people going to Africa, but there was also a component of locals that were in Ghana that came to the show as well, if I understand that correctly from the video. So what gave you, other than the obvious, musical connection of, the drum, the beat, which obviously comes from Africa in the first place. What gave you any inclination that people in Ghana would be receptive to that?
I didn't know if they would or wouldn't.
Okay, that's an important point. That's what I suspected, but I didn't want to lead you into that question. So
yeah, that wasn't really a part of the formula. I really didn't care, to be honest. It was like, it's going to have to grow. Maybe somebody will see the genius in this in 10 years. I'm okay with that kind of thing.
Well, how did it work? How did it work? How did the locals respond to it versus the people that came with the trip?
So at being the type of person I am as a perfectionist and what I know now and the connections that I have now, I would have liked things to work a lot differently than it did. I was still very young in what I'm doing in Africa. I still am very young, but that was like my first thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so for your first thing to take a go-go band is kind of crazy. And it was, I think on that trip, including the band, we had 65 people. Mm-hmm. So number one, moving 65 people through any African country outside of a band is
65 people anywhere is a nightmare.
Right. So for me, so one of the things that we had planned to do, which we're still kind of working on, it wasn't necessarily just about the trip, but it was about the documentary. So Most people don't know this, but we had the band we had 4 to 6 cameras following the band every day. So like the footage is in the can. I mean, I have the footage. Mm-hmm. I have the audio recordings. Like I have all of this stuff that people are like, well, why you ain't put it out? And it's just like but so let me take a few steps back.
Sure.
I had wanted to do it in 2017, but I wasn't really ready. Mm-hmm. I didn't have the money. And I didn't have the resources, but I sat down, I called G, I sat down with him, Rasan, and his wife, Janita. I sat down with Janita, Rasan, and G, we sat down in some damn restaurant and had this written proposal. Okay, everything was cool. And I was like, all right, I'll get back with you. Then I disappeared. Basically, I had to get low and get some money.
Right.
So I was like, let me focus on what it is that I'm really trying to do. I knew I couldn't do it. So then when I was ready, and when I say ready, I'm saying I went back to them when I had the money in the bank, when I knew I could buy the tickets.
Well, can I ask you a question, and you don't have to get into any more detail than you want to? Was there any, because I know, at least I think I know, that DC and Ghana are sister cities, and there's some sort of collaboration going on between the tourism boards in both places. What did any of the money come from there? What I'm trying to do is give people a sort of an understanding of how these things work, because I don't even know myself, so I'm sure most people.
So what happened is I knew that DC and Ghana were sister cities. That was a part of the proposal. The DC and the Commission of the Arts has a sister city grant. I wrote the grant. I didn't get it. Now, I was disappointed that I didn't get it. But then when I read the comments, and then when I went back and read what I wrote, I was like, you ain't deserve it. You could have did a better job. Like, I could have just started screaming racism and been like, oh, y'all just don't want us to win. But when I read the shit, I was like, bro, you kind of rushed through this shit. You ain't give it the just, like, you could have written a better proposal. Okay, I didn't get it. No problem. Fuck it. I got the bread on my own. And it was like a $20,000 grant that came from it. But mind you, before I took Backyard, I was working, I think I worked about 3 jobs. I was working about 3 jobs. I was doing 18-hour days. You know what I'm saying? 18, 20-hour days just for my own good and my own self. It wasn't just to take Backyard. It was just that moment in my life when I was like, I need a stronger foundation. I need money in the bank. I can't afford to, like, I got to grind this out and stack some paper. So so I was still running my studio but I literally had 3 jobs doing I was just, anywhere there was money, I was like, I'm on it. Mm-hmm. So again, 2017, I wasn't ready. So I was ready for 2018, meaning I knew I had the money. I knew I could do it. You know, sat down with them. We met, had an agreement. So then it's the process of actually making sure every member of the band has a passport, getting all the visas, getting the shots. So, you know, that part of it was kind of familiar. So one of the things that helped me was what I did, like when I advertised it in DC and kind of started reaching out to people in DC. At first, I kind of got my feelings a little bit because I felt like maybe people in the city could have supported more. You know, you go through all of these emotions about
like, how could you not want to do this? Like, why wouldn't
you? Yeah. You go through that, and then it's just like, Diallo, shut up, stop being a bitch. Like, you know what I'm saying? You tell yourself, stop being a bitch. This is your thing. Then you got to own it. Nobody has to do anything. So right. Okay, cool. So I was introduced to the CEO of Ghana Tourism Authority in DC by a friend of mine, who, again, somebody called her and said, and actually it's Gina Page, president and co-founder of African Ancestry. Somebody called Gina and said, hey, Ghana Tourism Authority CEO is in town. Do you need to meet him? She's like, I don't really need to meet him, but I know somebody who does. She calls me. Hey, Ghana CEO of Tourism Authority is in town. If you take him Backyard to Africa, to Ghana, then you might want to partner with the Tourism Authority. Now, at that moment, that wasn't a part of my plan. I was just kind of going to go to Ghana and find the people to make it happen. Now, African Ancestry was my partner because a part of the trip was giving all of the band members the African Ancestry DNA test and revealing their ancestry while we were there. So I sat down and I met with him. Now, this is after it's in play. So I'm having a conversation with him, telling him about what I want to do, what I'm planning to do. And then he asked me, well, how many people do you have signed up? And I was like, 100. And when I said 100, he sat up and was like, 100. I was like, yeah. He's like, well, how many people have paid? I was like, I think maybe we got like 80 people that paid a deposit or something. I was boosting the numbers up a little bit, but I was just like, yeah, we got about 80. Like, so then he was like, okay, I think this is something I want to work with you on. I'm like, great. I'm there with African Ancestry as my partner. So having African Ancestry, my partner, was a big deal. So I'm telling them, look, we're going to come. We're going to reveal their ancestry. We're going to tour Ghana. We're going to make a documentary. And this could actually help introduce Ghana to more people to come, et cetera. So I'm selling them. He bought it. So then I said to him, now this is where people need to understand where the sacrifice went in, because In 2017, I traveled to Ghana 4 times. I traveled once on my own, and then I took a group of middle schoolers from Paul Junior High School, about 12 middle schoolers. Then I traveled again on my own. And then at the end of 2017, I took my first adult group of about 12 people. My next group was 65. That was with Backyard. Yeah. In 2018, I went back and forth 8 times.
Wow.
Right. And Backyard was in February. So that means after that. But I'm going to tell you why this is significant and how it'll come out later, probably when I finish my book, is that when we took Backyard, we got everybody. What I realized was a few things. Going around to the Go-Go's and talking to people, Africa is still very far away in a lot of people's mind. Yeah. It's far away. It ain't like fucking.
We just discussed at the beginning of this conversation that most people in DC don't want to drive to Annapolis, which is 25 minutes away. So yeah.
Ghana is a far away. People don't know. Some people don't know the difference between a passport and a visa. So then you get into realizing that a lot of people may not really travel where they need a visa outside of the U.S., outside of the Caribbean. People haven't been on an 8-9 hour flight. Most people haven't been to Europe, Canada. You know what I'm saying? It's like DR, Puerto Rico. You know, some people, people have been to Brazil, but it's like people haven't really traveled. Right. And then beyond travel, people they may not have eaten at an Ethiopian restaurant. Like, I'm just saying, like, real life, the culture of the world is not necessarily something that's a open part of the go-go community.
Right.
So then I started to realize, okay, then I'm just like, damn, a lot of our brothers who want to come, who have the money to come, they can't get a passport because of a felony or child support. So that was something else that I was like, damn, like, okay. So now I'm starting to see the issues of our community, and I'm starting to see how systematic racism is even fucking with my program. So I'm like, these motherfuckers. So I'm like, okay, so I'm seeing all this stuff. Okay, boom. We get our group of people to come. Meet with the CEO of Tourism Authority. I said, well, listen, I'm going to be in Ghana in a few months. So I'll come see you in your office. At the time, I hadn't planned to go. But once he said, okay, I had to go.
Right.
Bought a ticket. Yo, I'm in town. Went to holler at his office. Now I'm on him. Like, yo, because I need the Ghana Tourism Authority endorsement to make this official. So then at some point, I'm sitting there talking with him in his office. I'm like, let's go out to Independence Square and shoot a video right now. He's like, okay. We go out there, shoot this video. I'm like, yo, I'm here with the CEO. It's on YouTube. Ghana Tourism Authority CEO. Like, the way that happened, it wasn't planned. It was like the stories I'll tell, because even the way we had to pan the camera, because it was a big ass concert the night before. So there was so much trash on the floor that I was like, we can't show this trash. We got to pan up.
Right.
So
So
then I'm working out with him. So I'm like, okay, we're going to perform 3 times. So once we performed in Accra at the Ghana Tourism Information Center, which is kind of hard to explain, but just imagine the Tourism Information Center. The second show, which was the major and the biggest show that I had to fight the most for, was I needed the band to perform inside of the slave castle. So they performed inside of the dungeon, over top of the male slave dungeon. Now, that was a really emotional day because before they performed, they toured it. After they toured it,
video of that,
after they toured it, then we revealed their ancestry. After we revealed their ancestry, we came back to the dungeon that night to perform. Now, what I could tell you is that to this day, I think you can ask Alize, because he came over here with me earlier this year. Mm-hmm. If you go to Cape Coast, Ghana, where the slave dungeon is, in any of the youngins outside, if you say I'm from DC, they're going to say backyard for life.
For real?
Listen, to this day, I promise you, if you go to Cape Coast and you say you from DC, somebody's going to come out and say backyard band for life. That you're going to hear that. So on one hand, where I wanted the impact to be broader, deeper, and wider, one of my guys went out there to the castle, and he came back to me and he was like, "Bro, do you realize that I told this cat I was from DC and he told me backyard for life?" I was like, that shit, I shed a thug tear when he told me that shit. So so then the other performance,
to me, that's a success. Then that we going back to the question I was asking earlier. How did it do? Like maybe it wasn't the amount of people that you wanted or whatever, but that's the impact.
I'm gonna tell you the biggest impact. So we did another show on Labadi Beach, right? So the way this worked was in November of 2017, I took G and Rasan first. I said, let me let y'all come and see what Africa's like. Just to show y'all. So we did some radio. We couldn't do TV at the time, but we did two or three radio interviews. G was the first to play go-go on the radio in Ghana. You know what I'm saying? So we did all of that. We just had a good time. We went to see the shows. We had a few.
What song did you play?
Did he play Skillet? What did he play? I forget what song he played because they played. I was like, whatever song is, you know, I forget what song he played. Did he play? No, he played. What's the Adele song? Hello. We played Hello, and then he played another one. We played Hello.
We played another one. I was like, please don't tell me they only played Hello. But I get it. No. Big record. That's the one that.
It was a humongous record. It was, you know, it was like, yo, this is the #1 remix. Da 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 da. So that was big. Because we were introduced, you know, still like even still like people still like, I'm running into people now who I met then, or who was like, damn man, I wish I would have knew about it.
Right.
Ghana's a whole country. It's not a state. Like it's a whole country. You know, there 30 million people here, and it's just a different place. It's a language barrier. But it's English speaking. So you know, for so many different reasons, I chose Ghana. Me deciding. Interestingly enough, before I chose Ghana, I knew I was going to leave the country, and I knew that I was going to start working between DC and another country. And it was either Cuba or Ghana, because I had went to Cuba a few times, and I went there on the relationships are so important. I still have an open invitation from the Cuban Institute of Music. So if you ever have any bands that want to go on a cultural trip, I'm plugged in Cuba heavy.
Oh yeah, we were talking about taking Black Alley down there for a minute. Yep, I remember that. But while you're on the relationship thing, I wanted to rewind for just 2 seconds because again, this goes back to the importance of relationships, and not only relationships, but I've seen people posting this on social media recently, but it's so true. Like make relationships with people that are going to mention your name in a room when you're not there. And that goes back to the lady from African ancestry, you know, bringing you up to the CEO of Ghanaian tourism, right? Like, and I just think that there's such an, just in the go-go community specifically, slightly in the DMV music community, but more so focused in go-go. There's a bit of an entitlement syndrome when it comes to the music industry itself, and there's a bit of a I mean, I guess it's really just still the entitlement. Like the people are just waiting for someone to come and pick them up and press the success button, and not really working to make relationships like the ones you're describing to where you're able to make those things happen. You know what I mean? And
that's not even just DC and go-go community. That's every community of artists and people who are trying to get on, who don't understand that there's already a formula for success, and they're trying to take a shortcut. That's everywhere you go. Like I'm 45 and I'm just realizing that there's a formula for success that people have used over and over and over again, and I've been trying to.
Don't be a dick. That's the first part of the formula.
Right. And I've been trying to create my own way. So I took G and Rasan. They had a good time. You know, they shot some video while we were there, et cetera, et cetera. So then by the time the band landed, you know, from the time they got off the plane, lights, camera, action, the whole trip. I say that it was a good trip. Like we still got a WhatsApp group from everybody who went on the trip.
Oh, nice.
I think that the band really had a good, like every time I talk to G, he like, bro, I got to get back. And I'm like, say less, whenever you ready, holla at me. Like I'm here. Like, so, but let me tell you about the impact and the legacy, because after we did Back to Africa was the impetus for the year of return.
Right. Yep.
So, and I always say because the way I'm writing it in my book is a little different, but I talk about people should be proud of Gogo because Gogo sparked the year of return. And I'm saying like, once the country saw those people come with Backyard, they saw the band, they saw the passion, they saw how people felt returning home, it made it easier for me to go to the government and sell them the year of return. Right. So it made it easier for me to then go to the government and say, okay, now y'all need to come to America. I brought them on a 3-state tour to America. I started pitching. And finally, I got them to bite on this year of return concept. We launched it in Ghana. The president came to the U.S. in October, launched it, yada, yada, yada. So, for me, things move really, really fast because right after Backyard went home, right after they left in March, I didn't have the rest of 2018 to work on the documentary and to focus on that project. I literally left a few days later. Then I was on tour in the US with the Ghana Tourism Authority. They left. Now I'm writing proposals and I'm traveling back and forth to Ghana because after Backyard, again, that door opened. Then the bigger vision became, how can we get 1 million Black people to come to Africa, right? And then and then in 2019, I brought Raheem and Wes. Raheem and Wes came as a part of the
Crossroads. Yep, I was booking for them too.
Right? And no slight to them at all, but if I did it differently, I would have brought Backyard again, because then that would have given me the opportunity to build on the previous year musically, as well as the name being familiar. But bringing 5 people is a big difference than bringing 20.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, but again, like I said, I think that was the main impact. I think that, like for me, history is made in, on my end, I'll be sitting there thinking like, yo, I have the only live go-go recording in Africa.
That's big, man.
And it sounds fucking great. And I'm like, and everybody like, when you gonna release it? What you gonna do? And I'm like, we just have to do it the right way. Like, it's timeless. So it doesn't have a timestamp on it. The fact that it happened in 2018, we just need to make sure that we release it and do it properly and do it. And me, I'm a loyal dude. So even being the executive producer and all of that, like, and having ownership of it, we don't make a move without Backyard. Like, I'm not the guy that's gonna be like, oh, we just gonna do this shit. Like, when we do it, we gonna do it together.
You're not gonna do the Backyard with Comedy Central apparently did the Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. I just saw his Unforgiven on Instagram. He's a genius, man. I love Dave Chappelle. He's dope. Not at all, because I didn't do it for the money. Like, this was literally a bucket list. And this was literally like one of those things where, as I said, my ancestors are proud, and they have and will continue to bless me infinitely for bringing go-go back to Africa. Like, I need people to understand that the slave dungeon is where people were in these dungeons for months at a time. They died there. Like, the pain is in the walls. Like, anybody you ask who went there, it's emotional. You cry. You're going to cry. And some people even start screaming. You could feel the pain in the walls. So what we had to sell them on was, because at first they didn't want the band to perform in there because they felt like it's a sacred place.
For sure.
It's not that type of thing. And I told them, it's time for us to flip the script on history. Yes, it's a sacred place, but we're celebrating our resilience. We're not coming in here just to have a party. We're saying, look, we took your best fucking shot and we back. We took your best shot and all you did is make us stronger. And now we're returning home with a different form of this indigenous music that's just as powerful. Man, it was like, it was truly, truly incredible. I need to say it publicly. I want to give a big shout out to my wife, Maisha, my mom, who's my main team. At the time, Kelly Maven was working with me as my publicist at the time.
Yep. She helped me out a lot too. Yep.
I want to give a big shout out to my man Chris White, who was my sound designer, one of my former students. We actually just flipped one of our studio spaces in Mount Rainier to a virtual broadcast space. So he's holding that down. So we have like a virtual broadcast recording studio in DC now that we haven't launched yet, but it's there. And I want to give a shout out to my man Kevin Swain, who came to direct it. Kevin directed Chuck Brown's DVD at the 930 Club.
Yep, the birthday joint. Yep.
He directed the birthday joint. He also shot a Tupac video. I always say that because I'm like, you an OG if you shot a Tupac video. You know, right. Kevin is a good. You know Kevin. He's out there. You in LA, right?
I haven't met him. No, I've heard the name, and I've heard, and there's a couple of people have been like, "Oh, we need to hook you guys up," but I still haven't met him.
Yeah. I'll definitely introduce you. Kevin is super cool. Who else am I forgetting? My family, my son. Oh, my people in Ghana. Kwesi Ajamin, Ghana CEO, Tourism Authority. Gina Page, African ancestry. My home girl, Kalita Stokes. So shouts out to Omar. Omar introduced me to Kalita. Kalita was here. Kalita had all of the red cameras. She had the Dragon. So we got all. She had all of the 4K cameras here. So we was able to shoot everything in 4K because you know what I'm saying. Like it was so many different people that came into it. I want to thank God because that shit cost a grip. And I'm gonna just tell you right now, the way God works, I don't even know where all the money was coming from, bro. I can't even tell you. But it was like, it was like I'll give you. Chris gonna see this and laugh. So we needed a board to do the show. So Chris is like, yo, I need this digital Midas 32R, M32R, whatever, because I could do this. I can attach the Pro
Deuce 9 was being a pain in the ass, I'm sure. Yeah.
Deuce was there, you know. Deuce was there. So I'm like, Chris, they want like $2,500 a day. Like this ain't in the budget. Like I'm like, for this piece of equipment, what I have to do. And Chris looked at me and said, you mean to tell me you brought all these motherfuckers to Africa to do some shit halfway? He was like, that's bullshit, man. If we gonna do this shit, we got to do it right. And I was just like, I said, order the board you want, bro. Like, but you gotta have people around you who are not just, okay, yeah, we can't afford it. Like he pushed me to make sure. Same for Kevin. Kevin was like, D, I need the jib for the Cape Coast show. I was like, Kevin, the jib, you didn't tell me the jib is not in the budget. He's like, listen, and I was like, well, can we get these cameras? He's like, no, I need all 4K. Like, so these, and I'm mentioning these two guys because from a technical aspect, the running joke that we have is they're like, I'm gonna teach you how to be a CEO and an executive producer. Mm-hmm. You write the check and stay the fuck out our way.
Right. Yep, that's exactly it.
You know what I'm saying? So like they were like
the experts be the experts. Yeah.
Yeah. So and it was the first time in my life where I felt like I had two real experts where I was comfortable enough to just do my job and let them run their job. And at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding because when we called it a wrap, like once everybody got on the plane, me, Chris, and Kevin went to this bar called Republic. We having a beer. I think somebody might have rolled a spliff or something. And I was like, yo, I'm like, they like, we done. I'm like, we are not done until the fucking plane lands in the morning. That's kind of the thing that I have. Whenever I bring people here, we're not done until the plane gets back home and touches the ground in America. Right. So once the plane arrived at home in America, then I shook their hand and was like, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. But at the end of the day, the question that I asked them is, do we have it in a can? Everybody's like, it's in a can. It looks good. It sounds good. So that was my first major thing, bro. Like that was my first major, like real shit. So I'm like, okay. And then the rest of the year I spent building the year return. I spent 2019. So like over the course of 2019, I think I did about 1,000 people coming here. So just small groups, large groups.
So is the thrust of that a permanent repatriation effort, or is it a tourism effort?
So is a little bit. So in general, the thrust of it is tourism.
Okay.
But tourism leads to repatriation, business, and foreign direct investment. So a lot of it is about connecting the diaspora in the African continent via Ghana, right? So then once people connect, they kind of find their way. Okay. Some people are going to repatriate. That's my wife and my cousin. My wife is like LOL. Yeah. So I'm she LOLing about. But some people are repatriating. And
some white guys question about repatriation. I don't know.
Oh, no. So for me personally now, so 2019 again, I was here running. I pretty much spent most of 2019 here running back and forth to DC again. But doing 1,000 people, you got a lot of people coming in, so you meet a lot of people, and then to go from 2017 bringing a group of 12 middle schoolers and 12 adults to in a year or two in the president's office, meeting the president, them making me the first African-American tourism ambassador from Ghana to the US, like doing all of that in a year and a half, honestly, was a lot. That was a lot. And COVID kind of became a blessing because it gave me an opportunity just to sit down because I had
down for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing international suicide. So now I'm pretty much here 3/4. I try to come home to DC mainly in the second quarter of the year. Mm-hmm. The other parts of the year I'm here. What I'm doing here now is I'm building a 12-bedroom guest house. I just started farming, so I have a cocoa farm. Cocoa is Ghana's largest crop and contributes. It's a $2 billion industry. Contributes about.
You and Tabby need to talk because he's got a coffee cocoa farm in Togo in East Africa.
So I've known Tabby for about 20 years, right?
Yeah. So, but I didn't know you knew he was doing that right now. So
yes, I saw his coffee. So what I'm going to do is actually, I just had a meeting with the cocoa board today, and they do cocoa and coffee. So I'm actually going to oh, that's what she was laughing at.
Yeah, not the truth.
So I'm going to holler at Tabby because it's so interesting that, like, I even felt like the city should have supported Tabby more. But at the same time, I was like, I love fucking Tabby because his passion and his drive is like none other, and he's exceeding and he's having success with or without what people think support should look like. And he's always been, and it's like when you know a guy from back in the day, and both of y'all are living your life and doing well or getting to that point, you appreciate still being able to, number one, have a text get answered, have a call get answered, and not to have anybody front on you like, who are you? It's like, Tabby ain't that dude. Like, Tabby is
Tabby is, I consider, one of my closest friends, even though most of our exchanges are we joning on each other. But one of the most genuine people ever. And to the point, like, I think a lot of people in DC, like, of course, they know him from The Pocket or whatever, but don't have any idea. Like, we put out a record with him and Wiz Khalifa in 2016. And he put out a whole EP in 2018 that's at 2.5 million streams, and I don't think most of those streams are from DC. I'd have to look them up, but you know what I'm saying. So it's like just because people may not support in DC, he definitely has a fan base.
But I'm definitely going to, and that's what I want. Like, so where I'm at right now is I'm currently writing a repatriation guide. So I'm doing it in a way where people who are interested in moving and or doing business can get help in a way, and I'm writing it. I'm writing it from like a unique DC voice, meaning, it's not written like a normal professional. I'm talking about it like me and you talking on the corner about going to the go-go, because I want people to understand it from a very real life perspective. Like, yo, you might not be able to find Levi's over here, but you can get Wache. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, really understand. And then,
well, in layman's terms, not.
It's in layman's terms. And then I got another book coming, and I'm about to present like some investment opportunities for people who want to just. And again, I'm not trying to have people divorce America, but I do want Black people specifically to. I want Black people specifically to begin to look at themselves as global citizens and to know that even though we're having this racial reckoning in America, if you are a descendant of an enslaved, of a kidnapped African, you're going to have to fight for your identity no matter where you go. We're fighting for our identity in the U.S. You're going to have to fight for your identity in Asia, in Europe, and even to a certain extent, we have to fight for our identity here, right? But at least you get to be in a place where there's ample opportunity. The weather's always nice. The pineapple's fresh. You know, everything.
My wife is over here hearing you and dancing. So we didn't use African ancestry, so don't beat me up. But we did trace her lineage back to Nigeria. So
she took the wrong test. She got to take African ancestry.
I know we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. I just wanted to get something for her, but we're gonna do it. I promise. I
got you. Hit me up. We'll work that out. Because my maternal ancestry is Yoruba of current present day Nigeria as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So well, I mean, like
every time I start, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
So I'm about to give you a job right now, Malachi. I'm gonna give you a job.
All right, I'm with it.
If you see, Afrobeat is taking over the world right now. Afrobeats is taking over the world. We need a go-go Afrobeat collaboration.
Listen.
We need a go-go Afrobeat collaboration.
You are clairvoyant because this is the exact. I'm reading you what I wrote this morning for a question. I'm going to read it right from this paper. What, if anything, do you read into the ascension of Afrobeats from a niche genre into the mainstream compared to go-go, even being based in America, never really seeming to enjoy that level of consistent international success? That is exactly on my mind.
Perfect. Like that's the thing. So,
well, man, I'll tell you another thing that ties all of that together. So remember when you said earlier somebody needs to just start doing the work and making the records? So I started a production company called 7070 Sound. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So G is the seventh letter of the alphabet. So GOGO Sound. So Go Sound. Okay. If you really think about it. I have two partners in this company right now. One of them is Eric Petty, who used to work for who's from DC, used to work for Cash Money Records, Republic. Now he works for TuneCore's label. And the other partner is Tabby Benet. And part of what we are doing, if you've heard Tabby Benet's last EP, Le Bon Voyage, which is a Afrobeats centered sound.
Yep.
We are doing remixing that EP with Bounce Beat Go-Go, and it's going to be called Le Bon Voyage. Now,
hold on. Before you go any further,
go ahead.
Tabby, when you watch this, remember when some years ago I was like, Tabby, you from Togo, bro. Do the Afro beats. Number two, Tabby and Malachi, if I don't get an advanced copy of that album, I'm saying to the public, both of y'all.
Well, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. So we're still trying to figure it out because well, first of all, I will tell you, he was reluctant to do the Afrobeats thing. And for anybody listening, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what I understand, and because I always get them confused, people should differentiate Afrobeat from Afrobeats. So Afrobeat is your more traditional sound, Fela Kuti, that kind of stuff. Afrobeats is what you hear now with Burna Boy, Drake, and sort of blew it up. So he has been very reluctant to do Afrobeats because he didn't want to be taken too literally, and he didn't want to do what seemed like it was the low-hanging fruit and to be too sort of cookie cutterish. You know what I'm saying? But
I got you. That makes sense.
And measurable odds on here. Thank you for. And, oh, your wife said shout out to Tabby. Measurable odds said, put me in the pocket. Great song. Yeah, but what you need to know about Tabby is that he doesn't even rap anymore. He hasn't rapped since 2016. And we put out 2 records with him. One was Wiz Khalifa. Well, that was just a single. And then we did the EP, Le Bon Voyage, which has very Afro beats sounding songs. But he obviously is more of an English speaker. He doesn't have an accent. So the lyrics and melody over top of it are not, they don't sound like your traditional Afro beats music. It's sort of Americanized.
Right.
So if you haven't heard that EP, check it out. It's really good. It's got a super dope song on there with Alice Smith, who's also from DC, Citizen Cope's wife, and it's fucking just killing ass song called damn, why am I blanking on it? What now? It's my wife's favorite song. Shit, I can't think of what it's called right now. But anyway, it's the name of the EP is Le Bon Voyage. All the records are dope. There's five or six records on there. But again, we're redoing it with the bounce beat, underneath it. But it's a little more complicated than it would seem like. But that sort of leads me into my last question, because we're heading into 2 hours here, which is not abnormal for our normal telephone conversations. So thank you, everybody, for sticking in this long. This is how our conversations normally go. So it's good to talk to you as always. So my last question is, no, I actually had 2 more questions. Sorry, one of them should be quick. So are you of the opinion, because going back to the comment that the gentleman made earlier, about me, do you think that it is possible for Gogo to become to sort of have like a moment like Afrobeats is having on a national and international level without being, sort of corrupted by the white power structure?
So I'm reading a book right now. The name of the book is called Neo-Colonialism by Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, Kwame Nkrumah was the president of Ghana, first independent Ghana. He's a serious scholar, just a serious man. And what everybody needs to realize is that the way the world is working right now, the white power structure is the same as the capitalist power structure. Mm-hmm. Anything that goes global is controlled by the white power structure. So if you wanted to go global, you're going to have to figure that out in a way, right? I don't mean anything that goes global, but everything's so ingrained. So like even now, you can't just say like the white power structure is kind of too broad, right? Because what's not the white power structure? Like, when you look at international currency, when you look at what's happening in Africa, even still today, even though they got independence, when you look at somebody like Burna Boy, do you think Burna Boy was able to do every fucking late night show in America for his last album and get these Grammys? You don't think he has a room full of white agents and this, that, and the third, or you don't think that he's at a level, when you get to this level, especially in the industry, in the music and the artist industry, there are just some gatekeepers that you got to have on your side, on your team. And there's a level of understanding that you have to have about the industry and what it is, if you're going to want, if you want to sell millions and millions of records, and if you want to be a global superstar, if you want to be like Burna Boy and have people who never heard of Nigeria but heard of Burna Boy, you can't do that without the quote unquote white power structure. And the reason why I brought up neo-colonialism, because Kwame Nkrumah talks about how the world powers, how they basically took over the economic power of the world through the US dollar after World War I and World War II. Right? And he does it talk about how this company gave this company a share, and then this chairman became this chairman. And it's the same thing in the industry, really. And you're going to have to get comfortable with it if that's where you want to go. Now, if you want to stay independent, you want to be a niche artist, and you want to just have your 500, you know, some people are going to be okay with having 500,000 fans who purchase their independent album for $10. That's not a little bit of money. Like, you're good with that. You know what I'm saying? You're good with that. So in a way, I think Gogo has Gogo kind of has far to go to even get to the point where it can get co-opted. Like, it's not at the level of being co-opted right now. Like, it has to, you know, and then just think about it. You got Afro beats came from Afrobeat.
Right.
So and could you say that you could say that Chuck Brown is the Fela Kuti of go-go? You could say that, right? But Fela was also not just a musician. Fela was a revolutionary. So he helped to lead a new era for a whole group of people that through his music, which is a little different. But yeah, I would say that I would say that's a little bit too far. Like, go-go is not, and y'all got to remember, most white people don't have rhythm. The majority, they can't co-opt go-go. Most you got rhythm. You play guitar and some more shit, so you special in that regard. You like, I think sometimes it's like you sit around worry about if it's going to get co-opted while it's getting co-opted. You can't worry about it getting co-opted. You gotta keep it going. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's a worry. Basically, is what I'm saying. That's just my opinion. I don't think you gotta worry about that.
I feel it. Makes sense. I mean, it's just something that, you know, me being a person who has been passionate about the music since I was a teenager and has always been trying to, you know, push it forward and see it get the respect it deserves in terms of, you know, being a powerful live music, and realizing that the reason that the rest of the world doesn't know it's a powerful live music is because we haven't figured out how to build up the demand in other places for people to experience it live. Like, just like you said, and almost everybody that's come on this show, nobody that is a fan of go-go really understood shit about it until they went to one. And that is a transformative experience, but that is also not something that can scale. And so I've always been trying to crack that code of how to record it in such a way that people will understand it and respect it and love it. And then when they get to the show, they'll be like, holy shit, this music just changed my life in the way that it's changed the life of everybody who I've had on this show and almost everybody who I know. So my last question, which should be real quick, is so you did 3 dates in Ghana. Ghana is a country, obviously. Africa is a continent, just for anybody who is not clear on that distinction. How many markets do you think, and I guess maybe I have a little clearer understanding of this from the rest of our conversation. I guess what I'm getting at is, could you do more than a 3-city tour?
Okay, good question.
Yeah.
In Ghana, yes.
Okay.
So in Ghana, we could do Accra, we could do Kumasi, we could do Cape.
Thank you for saying that, because I've been saying Accra this whole time.
Well, some people say Accra. Some people say Accra. Some people say Accra. So you could do Accra, you could do Kumasi, you could definitely do Ada, you could do Takoradi, you could do Cape Coast. You can do 5 or 6 cities in Ghana, right? Okay. Like, with what I know now and based on the population, you could do those things. Okay. Now now I'm gonna put this out there because I'm pretty much in the process of moving here, like, permanently. My daughter's at her 2nd year in Xavier, so my wife travels back and forth. Right. And I don't think she ain't coming over here till my daughter finish school permanently. But then once my daughter finishes, I think my wife and I could kind of move around the world together, like, everywhere more than we do now. But even still, we still kind of be crossing each other in the air sometimes. Right. Since I plan on being here, I can't be here without go-go. Right. Like, I was telling somebody, like, they was like, so you gonna move? I was like, You mean for the rest of my life and never go back? I was like never go to a go-go again? I was like, I can't do that, bro. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, normally, even when I come home, normally before when I was coming home, I would schedule my ticket so that if I get home on a Wednesday, I could sleep for a day, then go to Aqua on Friday. And then now I'm back in the city. Like, okay, I come in, I got to get my dose. I got to come get that hit. Now I feel like I could move around. So anybody who watching this, I'm actually not on social media right now. I took Instagram off my phone, Facebook, just because I needed to focus on real life and get some stuff done for a little while. Like I said, I'm farming and I'm building and doing some buying land and just really trying to like set up my legacy for my kids and my grandkids. But if anybody is really interested, and then when I say really interested, I ain't talking like, you don't always have to have money. It's not always, a partner is not always money, but if you don't have money, then you got to have serious sweat equity. You got to be really willing to put in the work. And if anybody wants to work with me to continue to bring GoGo to Africa, then just really hit me up, probably starting early, first quarter 2021. I'm going to put something out, start doing a few Zoom calls, and then trying to really put together a serious team of people. Because, and the reason why I'm saying that now is because as the African market begins to digitize their radio advertisements in their broadcasting, right? Because a lot of things here are analog. So, for example, if I go to a radio station in Accra, they have that same radio station has another different station in Kumasi. They can't broadcast through the whole country. So now they can't segment their advertising. So which affects advertisement, right?
Right.
So, but for people, but if there's anybody who wants to really see it and experience it for yourself, because over the years it's going to happen. So my thing is like, okay, if I'm going to be here for the rest of my life, then I got to bring Backyard once a year, right? Or I got to figure out a way to circulate GoGo. Like GoGo has to circulate through here, then that way somebody could bring me, I need a new pair of 996 every 6 months and shit.
I've been trying to find some 1300s, like the old school 1300s, like 3 years, and I can't find them anywhere.
Yeah, I need some 997, 998. I think I'm about to have my wife send me a pair, like literally. So it's like, so it's coming. Like
I'm in Long Beach right now with the butters on, so I feel you. I feel you.
So it's one of those things that it's coming. Like G and I talk every few months. We don't really have long conversations because we don't need to. Because I think after our experience in Africa together, he gets it and he totally understands. Like I'm even trying to wait to get him over here because I feel like I can help him find his stardom, his Slim Charles from The Wire, his voiceover, radio, and just a way to help him shine on this side as my brother, and we could do some business together. So because I know that he's such a leader of the culture that if we figure out a way for him to come over here once a quarter, it's going to open a lot of people's eyes, and then they're going to want to start coming over here because they're going to be like, gee, like you going back over there like that, especially when I get him to Sierra Leone, which is his country of ancestry, because he really wants to go there. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is just to, again, focus on real life. You got to stack some paper. You got to stack your process. You got to build your team. You got to get your focus. You got to work out, eat right, be healthy. You got to do all of those things in order to get to that next level. So I pray and hope that I know, man, when this Rona end, I'm going. I can't wait to go back to the GoGo. Like you don't even understand that. Like I already know, and then it's gonna be extra because I don't even buy bottles. But when I come back, I'm buying bottles. Like I'm not even that guy. I'm not that guy. Like my partners are those guys. They buy bottles. I'll put in. But now I gotta walk around with my own bottle with the light in it. Like I just gotta be a regular GoGo dude when I come back.
It's funny. Listen, man. This was. I was already expecting this to be awesome, but this was even more awesome than I expected it. And you already know that whatever I can do to help in the pursuit of this, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm with it. So just let me know whatever you need, whatever I can, however I can be of assistance. And I'm happy to do it in any way that we can make it happen.
Yes,
And
sir.
I thank you again for
Thank you, man.
so late to do this and joining us from Africa and Ghana. And are you in Accra now, or where exactly in Ghana?
No. So now I'm in a village. So I moved back and forth between Accra, which is the capital city, and a small town called Yame Bechere. It's a small town of about 1,000 people. I'm working with the farmers here, so I'm doing the farm with them. I'm trying to get like healthcare to the community. I'm building a school here. I'm building a library and a technology center here, and I'm working with this community on community development. So I move between here and the city. So I'll go back to Accra like on the weekend, but most of the week I'm out here with a fresh juice and the fresh air.
Gotcha. And I know I've tried to close this out 3 times and it's kept running my mouth, but I do have one more quick question just for people, because I sat at a panel. So Complex Con literally happens 100 yards from my house, right? So we were right by the Long Beach. So last year I was there and they did a panel on Afro beats, and Wale was on there, and DeVito, and of course, I'm blanking on everybody else's name, but one of the things that they wanted to, people were asking, well, what do you want people to know about Africa that they don't know? And they're like, we just want people to know that it's not like a bunch of people running around in the jungle like this. It's a civilization. You know what I mean? It's obviously the birthplace of civilization from the beginning. But can you shed a little light just real quickly on, maybe can you compare? I mean, I've been recently seeing these, these maps where they fit the U.S. and Russia and China and all the other continents into Africa, and it's still not as big as Africa. But just in terms of where you are in Ghana, like Accra, like is there an equivalent or some kind of, similar city in America that you could equate it to? So people realize that it's like there's cities and civilization.
So Accra or Ghana. So inside of Ghana, you can go to this for everybody who travel and party and enjoy. You can go to New York, LA, Miami, Chicago, DC, and Houston in Ghana. Okay. Like I call Accra the enjoyment capital of the world, because nobody enjoys the way Ghanaians enjoy. The whole world could be goddamn falling apart, and it's a party going on somewhere. Like kind
of falling apart right now. So yeah.
If you show up to a party at 12:31, you might be too early.
Oh wow. Okay. So it's like go-go culture then, basically.
6 in the morning. 6 like Accra nights mean you could start at 7 and go till 7. You could go have breakfast, shower, and then you come and you go with the right people. I can't even compare it to any place in the U.S. because we don't have that much freedom over there. But it's like I said, if I took
freedom, there's not as much freedom in America, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of like enjoyment, like if you want to enjoy, if you want to sit on a roadside and drink a beer, then if you want to go to this spot, then if you want to go to that spot, and then so it's the city is open in a way that so many people fall in love with it because the food, the colors, the people, the culture, and I'm just talking about Accra.
Right.
I'm not talking about Kumasi, which is further north, or Takoradi, but it's like. But you know what? This is the thing that people should know. It's like the U.S. in a way. There's a different vibe in Chicago, a different culture. There's a different vibe in New York, D.C., New Jersey, Miami. So the more you move around the country of Ghana, in certain parts of Accra, because you got various ethnic groups. So where the Ga people are in Labadi, the vibe is different than where the Ashanti people are, than where the Ewe people are, than where the Fanti people are in the central region. So the vibe of the people and the vibe of the town goes with the ethnic group that populates that town. Gotcha. It also goes with the development of that city, the history of that city. Like I haven't spent a lot of time in Takoradi out west, but everybody keep telling me, bro, Takoradi is live as fuck. Like you gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's one of those things. Like once you come, you're gonna get bit by the bug. Anybody who comes, you'll get bit by the bug, and you just gonna be like, how I gotta go back. I gotta go back. And the main thing that I want to tell people is it's not that far away. Like,
right.
Just know that it's not that far away.
So what is it? What the flight from DC is 8 or 9 hours? You said
9.5 hours direct. So you can't get a direct flight from DC. You can't get a direct flight from DC anymore because South Africa Airways just shut down. But you can get a direct flight from Delta out of JFK. I highly suggest that people take a direct flight. Direct flights are a little more expensive, but for me, I don't even like flying layovers domestically. I like to get on the plane and get off the plane. Right. If you have the money and you can afford it, and you can fly first or business class because of the distance, then you're going to fly a little more comfortable. You know, you can at least get drunk because they're going to have Hennessy and everything else up there. Then that way you could just be knocked out and go to sleep. The other thing that I would let people know who are watching this is there are only three things that you need to get here: a valid passport, right? A visa, which you can get from the embassy, and a yellow fever test. Yellow fever is the only mandatory immunization that you have to get, and you only have to get it once in your life. So once you have it.
Even now, though, with COVID, you don't have to get a COVID test right now?
So the only reason I didn't include COVID because they haven't made it permanent. So for Ghana right now, you have to have a negative. And this is why Ghana is better than the U.S. I know we keep trying to end, but let me just say this. When I left here in June to go back to the U.S., the way the airport was in Ghana, they take your temperature at the door, you get sprayed down, mandatory hand sanitizer, mandatory mask, like you getting locked the fuck up if you
common sense shit that makes sense to a rational person. Gotcha.
When I got off the plane in Dulles, when I tell you nothing, just have a good day. Get the fuck out. I mean, no, when this time I flew back in the north when I came back. But it was like, have a good day. Even now, to come into Accra, you have to have a negative COVID test within 72 hours of departure. And you have to take a mandatory test at the airport before you're allowed out of the airport.
Okay.
So they're not playing.
Right. I mean, it makes sense. Like, you know, hi, it's a global pandemic. We should act like there's a
global pandemic. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, hopefully by the time you come back, this fucking orange idiot will be gone, and not me, but the other orange idiot will be gone. And things will be, you know, at least somewhat back to normal, and hopefully we can meet up and go to on Friday and go see Backyard. And
where are you? You in LA, right?
I'm in LA and Long Beach.
Okay. I'm that was a part of my plan when I was coming back this year. I was going to do my run. So I was going to do New York, Chi, LA, down south, Miami, Atlanta, and come back. But COVID. So definitely when this shit ends and open back up, when I come back, I'm definitely coming through LA, and I would love to sit with you and Kevin. You and Mr. Swain. Yeah, introduce y'all to. That would be dope. That'll be dope.
Yeah, 100%. And anytime, anything, you know, hit me up anytime.
I got you, bro.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank y'all.
I
2.5 hours. Damn, bro.
What'd you say? 2.5 hours, bro. It didn't seem like that long, but you've been to donated. Thank you very much. This helps.
Thank you, Finay.
Yeah, thank you so much. That helps me to pay for the service to keep doing this, because I'm not making any money off of this. I'm just doing it to do it. So at least helps me pay for that. So thank you very much. And we'll talk soon, man. I appreciate it. All right, thanks, man. All right. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We will be back next week, I believe, with Kid Cannon of Bounce Beat Records, who is working with TCB and trying to get more of their music out on streaming platforms. I believe that's who we have next week. It might be the week after that. I'm drawing a blank right now. But pretty soon this week or towards the end of this weekend, the new schedule should be up for December on the website. So thanks again for tuning in. Really appreciate all of you. Thank you again, Bintu, for the donation. And we'll see you guys next week. All right. Have a good one.